Bindings. Bindings are energetic straitjackets placed on someone that restricts the person's ability to exercise free will and free choice. I've had a lot of women come to me who have been in very abusive and controlling relationships and yet are unable to leave and feel they have no choice but to stay. Now, once they're on my table, and this is when I was doing that like hands-on healing for them, I would find them in an energetic straitjacket that had been placed by the over-controlling partner. I've also removed a lot from men who have had controlling mothers and have placed bindings on them to keep them close and still on the energetic breasts. This can make it almost impossible for them to move too far away or to date a woman not approved by their mother. And it can also play out in the men choosing their mothers over wife and children, or because the mother wanted control. So bindings, I find them quite fascinating. So they're an energetic straitjacket and they are designed to control. So like I said, I get different types of people more prone to, bindings. The first one is women who are in very controlling relationships. I find, when it gets to an extreme type of control sort of situation, that, men can very easily bind their partners when it comes to controlling their women. Now, another thing that I do find very common is when I have a lot of men that come to me that I find bindings on from their mothers. So sometimes mothers can bind they can bind their daughters as well, but I do find that sometimes when it comes to bindings, it's more placed on sons from mothers. But I do definitely still find, mothers and fathers binding daughters as well, but just more common in that I've experienced over the last, 7 years. So when it comes to someone who's been bound by their partner, this can create all sorts of issues, and the person feels like they are basically mummified. They feel like on the inside they're screaming, they want to leave, they don't want this anymore, but yet they are actually bound to the situation. They say I have no choice, and the binding actually does cut off choices available to them. It literally stops them from being able to feel the energetic different types of choices that they have available. So from the outside, it could look like just leave. But if someone's got a binding from their partner, it's almost impossible to get through that. There's like no choices available, because that's what the binding does. It kind of mummifies them. So their ability to have choices is greatly limited. So the person who's placed the binding is able to have all the control. Now, it's the same true for, people who have been bound by their parents. And I'm going to use the example of men who are bound by their mothers because it just kind of highlights, how intricate it can be. So men who have been bound by their mothers usually don't move too far away. They usually have to date a woman, the mother has to fully approve. And what I find is the mothers only approve of other controlling women that are going to control the son, but the mother can control that woman. So if the woman's too powerful and the mother can't control the new girlfriend in order to control the son, the mother will say no. So if the son meets another powerful woman who's in her own power and isn't manipulated by the mother, then the mother will literally end that relationship. And no matter what the man feels, even if he really wants to be with this woman, that binding, he won't be able to choose outside of that. He'll always have to choose his mother. And what I've seen, even when the mother approves and then they've got married and the son's got married and had children, if that wife no longer becomes like under the mother's kind of control, if the mother decides that's it, their marriage is ending, the sons under a binding, they choose their mothers over their family, even if children are concerned, because the binding can be that strong. Now, if that man didn't have the binding, the chances are they would choose to step forward with their partner and children rather than be controlled by their mother. But with that binding, it's like I said, it's almost impossible. I won't say it's impossible because that's not the case with how the universe works, but it becomes very, very limited, and it would take a lot for somebody to try and get through and move through that binding and make choices outside of that, because like I said, the binding is like a mummification, and therefore all choice points are not available. It's almost like they're still there, but you can't feel those choice points, so someone will feel like there's no choice. Another way it can show up is if someone is bound to a negative entity due to trying to get rid of it without appropriate tools and information, and instead they've tried to use their own vital force energy to remove it. Now this can create energetic entanglement, and an energetic straitjacket is created when this happens. So although the intentions were good, they could end up bound to it. And I've had a lot of healers and body workers have this happen to due to lack of knowledge of safe removal. So this is something that is, I'm going to say common, but it's quite common in as far as the people that I work with, because I seem to draw a lot of healers and body workers and, like empaths who are fully energetic. So I draw a lot of people to me who are naturally sensitive and empathic, people. And usually due to lack of appropriate information and lack of appropriate tools when dealing with entities, I have a lot of body workers and, sort of empathic people who come and who have been sensitive to entities, either in themselves or a client they've been working on, and they have tried to remove the entity with their own vital force energy. Now, what happens is if you are trying to remove an entity with your own vital force energy, you end up entangling yourself in the energetics of the entity. Now this is different to an entity just attaching to you. If an entity is attached to you, it's not entwined or entangled with you. But once you get your vital force energy and you try and remove something in a way that is not how it's meant to be removed, you can run the risk of energetically getting entangled with the entity, and this will actually create a binding, an energetic straitjacket. So you'll be bound together once you start using your own vital force energy. Now, even in hands-on healing, when I remove entities like hands-on and I'm physically having an interaction with the entity, I'm still not using my own vital force energy to remove it. I have a way of connecting to energy and frequencies of a higher vibration that allows vital force energy and divine light and divine healing intelligence to flow through me, so I'm able to do things that isn't using my own vital force energy. It's using the divine energy to help remove things. So that's the reason why I don't have that type of entanglement with entities when I'm working hands-on with somebody and removing an entity, in a hands-on situation. This is the reason why it is really important to have these types of skills, because, running the risk of entanglement, which is, like I said, it is actually really, really common. A lot of body workers, massage therapists, even counselors, sometimes these can be something that naturally happens because the person who is sensitive and can pick up on these things then will try and remove it just with their own vital force energy. And yeah, like I said, it becomes very, very dangerous. And it is actually quite common. Now, bindings can be also made in hugely, different ways. So I'm not going to go into every single way that bindings can be made, but the majority of the bindings are definitely between relationships, intimate relationships, and family members are usually where I see bindings. Occasionally I can see bindings in work environments, but not as regularly. Attaching mechanism. Disempowered states where a person needs love so deeply that they will have no energetic boundaries will allow this type of energetic binding. Or trying to get rid of an entity without appropriate tools and information, and instead trying to use their own vital force energy to remove it. So when it comes to bindings from loved ones and family members, the attaching mechanism is the lack of sense of self, needing love and needing approval from other people really opens up the boundaries. Basically, you open yourself up to being bound by somebody else. So that is the attaching mechanism when it comes to bindings from people. It's not having that strong sense of self and needing love or approval from outside of yourself that will allow this to happen. Now, when it comes to a binding with an entity, then, you know, the attaching mechanism is trying to remove the entity without knowing the appropriate tools and information. The results in a person. They restrict the person's ability to exercise free will and free choice when it comes to the person or entity that placed the binding. Once somebody's got a binding on them, like I said earlier, it's like all our choice points. When we haven't got a binding and when we haven't got energetic damage, we have billions and billions of choice points around us and available to us. There are all these pathways of possibilities. And in an infinite universe with infinite possibilities, and we are part of that universe and we're part of that whole, we also have infinite possibilities of creation. So in a normal situation without any energetic damage, somebody has billions and billions of choice points all around them. And every choice point has another, you know, billion choice points attached to that, because once you go through one choice point, it opens more possibilities. So we've got billions and billions of pathways and choices available for us to create from. An energetic binding is like totally being in a straitjacket. Everything is cut off and your choice points become cut off. Now, of course, it doesn't really become cut off. The choice points are still there, but the energetic binding blocks that person from being able to access those choice points. So people that are in a binding literally feel like they have no choice, and that is a very real experience for them. So these things can really, really cut people from their path, their truth, being able to access who they are, being able to express who they are, and they allow them, and it puts themselves into a position where they literally have to hand over all control. Lifespan. Bindings can be from lifetimes, but they can't hide. If the person has a binding, you will find it straight away. You will not have to go looking for it or wait for it to be highlighted. So bindings you can find bindings that were placed from a past life and that are still actually operating. Usually if that happens, the person has also incarnated. The person who placed the binding will also have to incarnate quite close into the person's life, so it could be another family member. Most of the time though, bindings are from this life, but you can, you know, come across the odd few that are from past lives, but they can't hide. So that's a really good thing. Once you're in there and if you're asking, they can't hide. So if the person has a binding, it doesn't need to be highlighted and it can't hide on the inner world. So a binding is like being mummified. So as soon as you're in someone's, if you're doing a hands-on healing, as soon as you're in the energy body, you can see it straight away and feel it straight away. But because we're doing it through the records, as soon as you ask if there's a binding, you'll spot it straight away. You'll get the answer straight away. So it won't hide. So these ones you'll always find if it's there.